My mom pushed Rosie's pink coat off the dining chair with 2 fingers, like it was diseased, and said, "Choose her or us." Dad kept carving the Easter ham in perfect pink slices. His jaw worked slow. The knife tapped bone like nothing had happened. Rosie was 9, small for her age. She looked at the coat on the floor, then at me. She wasn't crying yet, that's what broke me. She already knew that adult tone meant she was the problem nobody wanted to name. I pulled her tight against my side. "No," I said, loud enough for the whole table. "You didn't do a thing, baby. If you want to say something cruel, say it to me." Mom flinched. Dad finally looked up. I reached into my bag and slid the thick cream envelope across the table. It hit his plate and left a smear of ham glaze. Grandma Louise's lawyer's name stared up at him in dark blue ink. For the first time all night, Dad looked scared. That envelope had been waiting 3 years. Ever since Daniel died and I became Rosie's mom for real. She wasn't blood to my parents. She was an inconvenience. They treated her like weather damage I'd tracked into their clean house. One less stocking at Christmas. Birthday cards with her name left off. School pictures that never made the hallway table. I kept bringing her anyway. I wanted her to have grandparents. I wanted family. Stupid me. All those years I was the invisible glue in Dad's catering company. I fixed his payroll when money went missing. I calmed vendors he ghosted. I sat with Grandma Louise through every doctor visit, refilled her pills, kept the books straight. They called it helping. Never paid me. Never even said thank you. Mom's voicemail after Rosie got the flu was the last straw. "This is exactly what we were afraid of when you saddled yourself with a child who isn't even yours." I saved it. I started copying everything. Grandma Louise had been watching. She left folders, dates, notes in her slanted handwriting. "Anna, fix this. Richard will pretend otherwise." She knew exactly what they were doing. 2 weeks later, we sat in that beige conference room at the bank. 9 of us around the long table. Dad, Mom, the accountant Paul, my cousin, the board guys, lawyers. I left Rosie with a friend. My hand still smelled like her crayons. Dad stood first. He said grief had made me impulsive. He said the company couldn't survive personal instability. He never said Rosie's name. Just emotionally driven decisions and a child everyone tried to support. The room stayed quiet, the way rooms do when a respectable man offers the easy story first. Then Helen, Grandma's lawyer, opened the first folder. Payroll records, vendor emails, my handwritten corrections Dad had signed off on for years. Notes proving I'd kept the business from collapsing more than once. She read Grandma's margin notes out loud. "Anna covered payroll shortfall. Do not let him call her help." Paul cleared his throat. His voice shook. "The deleted files. The trace points to an internal override. My override. On credentials only leadership had." He looked straight at Dad. "I signed off on too much. I preserved concealment." The temperature in the room dropped. My cousin stopped nodding along. One board member asked for the audit trail. Mom tried one last time. Louise was sentimental. "This doesn't explain why Anna's making a martyrdom out of a temporary situation." I stood up. My chair scraped loud. "You keep talking about my daughter like she was the mistake. She didn't make me unavailable. She made me stop lying about how available you expected me to be." Helen placed the final document in front of the board chair. Grandma Louise's trust papers. Controlling shares transferred to me. One line clear as day. Any attempt to exclude or diminish Rosie would be evidence of unfitness. Dad didn't speak. He just stared at the papers like they'd grown teeth. 2 weeks later, the locks changed. Quietly. Paul sent a memo. The board voted. Dad started telling people he'd stepped back for health reasons. Mom mailed back Rosie's school picture in the silver frame I'd bought. Glass unbroken. I put it face down in the hall closet. No big fight, no apology. Just the slow, polite retreat respectable families do when the truth finally wins. Rosie hangs her pink coat on the chair next to mine now, even in warm weather. I let it stay. Some things earn the right to take up space. At night, the house is quiet, except for the dryer thumping and Rosie turning over in bed. No one here has to get smaller to be kept. And after everything, that's peace.
My dad punched me at his dinner table because I asked my brother to smoke outside. He called me a beggar like it was my job title, and my sister-in-law laughed. What they didn't know was that 15 minutes later, one phone call was going to flip their whole world. I'm 41, and my family had me trained to be the quiet one. My older brother was the golden kid, loud and confident, always talking like the future already belonged to him. After my mom died 7 years ago, our weekly dinners got even colder. Same old brick house in West Scranton, same seats, same rule. He talked, Dad nodded, and I stayed small. That night, my brother lit up before the plates even hit the table. Smoke drifted right into my face, sharp and bitter. I tried to ignore it because complaining never changed anything, but my throat burned and I was just done. I set my fork down and said, "Can you smoke outside for a minute?" My brother smirked. "You serious right now?" His wife rolled her eyes like I was embarrassing her. Then Dad slammed his palm on the table hard enough to rattle the silverware. He stood up, pointed at me, and snapped, "Shut up, you beggar. You smell worse than the cigarette." I didn't even have time to blink. His fist cracked into my cheek. My head snapped sideways. Metal filled my mouth. I pressed a napkin to my lip and watched the red spread. Nobody asked if I was okay. My brother took another drag like nothing happened. His wife leaned back and said, "Maybe if you actually own something, you'd have the right to complain." Dad just sat down and started eating again. That was the part that got me. Not the pain, the certainty. I stepped into the hallway and listened to them keep going without me. Plates scraped, chairs shifted, and smoke slid after me like a ghost. I kept wondering, when did I become the family punching bag instead of a son? Looking back, I didn't stay quiet because I agreed with them. I stayed quiet because the house still smelled like my mom's cooking, and I thought that meant family. 15 years earlier, the bank almost took the place. Dad's business was collapsing, and the foreclosure notice hit our kitchen table like a bomb. Dad called it temporary, and my brother barely looked up from talking about his own plans. I drove to the bank the next morning and saw the numbers in black and white. I had savings from overtime, and an attorney told me there was a way to keep the house. The debt could be transferred, the paperwork filed, and the roof would stay over all of us. I signed everything myself quietly and told nobody. Not Dad, not my brother, not even Mom. I thought I was protecting my father's pride. On the back porch, my face throbbing, I finally asked myself the ugly question. What exactly was I protecting now? Inside, my brother was still bragging, Dad was still approving, and his wife was still laughing at me. So I called my attorney and said, "Bring the documents. Tonight." Headlights swung into the driveway. My attorney walked up with a briefcase, took one look at my swollen face, and didn't flinch. We went back inside, and the room changed the second they saw him. My brother started, "If this is some stunt and my attorney cut in, I'm here for him." He set the briefcase on the table, dead center. The latches snapped open, sharp and final. Folders slid out, one after another. perfectly squared. My dad's fork froze halfway to his mouth. My brother's smile collapsed like wet cardboard. My sister-in-law's eyes darted, hunting for a joke. Then the first page slid toward Dad, face up. My attorney said, "This house has been his for 15 years. Dad laughed once, weak and confused, then grabbed the paper. My brother snatched another, scanning fast, like speed could change the words. Receipts, taxes, insurance, renewals, my name on everything. Then my attorney added, "And the land behind the fence? He bought that too." The air got tight. My brother slammed his hands on the table. "This is fraud. You tricked Dad." My attorney turned a document so the notary seal faced them and said, "Your father signed." It was filed. Dad stared at his own signature like it betrayed him, and I realized they'd rather call me evil than admit I carried them. My attorney placed an envelope beside the papers. 30-day notice, he said. My brother whispered, "You'd really kick us out?" I looked at the napkin still sitting by my plate, stained with my blood, and said, "For 15 years, I paid for everything. Tonight you called me a beggar." Pack. Nobody stopped me when I left. No apology chased me down the hallway. The house was still full of memory, but it didn't feel like a weight on my back anymore. Sometimes the only way to keep what's left of yourself is to stop letting people rewrite you. When the doctor told me I had 3 days left, my parents smiled. They squeezed my hand and whispered, "Finally, your house, your company, your $180 million. It's ours." That's when I stopped being their son and started becoming their target, and when my plan began with the cleaning lady and $5 million. After the doctor left, the room went too bright and too quiet. I waited for fear to hit. It didn't. I just kept wondering, how do you hear 3 days and feel relief? My mom and dad walked out discussing paperwork like they'd won a vacation. A few minutes later, Ruth came in to wipe counters and empty trash. She saw my face and shut the door without me asking twice. I told her, "Do exactly what I say, and you'll never work again." Her eyes narrowed, calculating, not greedy. "What do you need from me?" she asked. I told her the deal straight. She wouldn't have to steal. She wouldn't have to lie. She just had to be brave, take notes, and hit the right buttons when it mattered. Then I gave her one scene from my childhood. My 10th birthday, balloons still taped up, cake on the table, and my brother walked in with straight A's. Suddenly it was his party. My name wasn't even on the frosting. That pattern never changed. Looking back, I wasn't ignored by accident. I was managed. My brother showed up that afternoon in a blazer, hugging me like we were on camera. He talked about order and arrangements and preserving the legacy. I stared at him and thought, is this grief or a takeover? Then my phone buzzed. My attorney, Harris. "Your parents are trying to access your accounts," Harris called. They'd filed an emergency petition claiming I was mentally unfit, conservatorship, 2 hours after my prognosis. They even had medical details I'd never been told because they'd peeked at my chart through a cousin's clinic login weeks earlier. My mom rang next, voice sweet as poison. "We're doing this for your own good." I said, "I'm dying, not delusional." She paused, then admitted the truth anyway. "Anyone who isn't us might mishandle it." Harris emailed me old documents they'd kept like weapons, a guardianship petition from when I was 23, another draft from when I was 20. My brother had signed support, calling me unstable. An aunt I hadn't seen in years showed up with a folder of copies and one shaky sentence, "They needed you to fail." Then a news alert hit my screen, anonymous family sources claiming I was in mental decline. They weren't waiting for me to die. They were trying to bury me alive. That night, my brother came back with a manila envelope of forged signatures. He played a video of me gasping in the dark, filmed without consent. "This is what the court will see," he said. When I called him jealous, his mask slipped. "You were the mistake," he hissed. I put Harris on speaker. "Leave now," Harris said, calm and razor sharp, "or I call the police." My brother left fast. No more hugs. Just before dawn, an alarm shrieked when a sensor slipped loose. Nurses rushed in, fixed it, left. 5 minutes later, my mom and brother walked in like they'd been waiting outside. Two strangers followed with a clipboard. "Transfer," one said. "Signatures already in place." My mom pulled a small vial from her purse. "Clear liquid. This will make it easier," she murmured. My brother added, "Dad approved it. Don't make this messy." I didn't whisper. I roared, "No, get away from me." Ruth hit the emergency button under the bedside panel. I reached under my pillow and hit play. His own voice filled the room. "One way or another, this ends soon." Then my mom's from yesterday. "He's not gonna make it. Push it through." Security burst in from the hall, fast and loud. The vial clattered as they dragged them out. They were escorted out, fighting the whole way. By afternoon, Harris hand-delivered the final twist. The family trust had a clause my dad never bothered to understand. Only I could dissolve or alter it. They'd been circling a vault they couldn't open. I locked every account, logged every attempt, and transferred medical decision power to Harris and Ruth permanently. My dad stormed in with my mom and brother, red-faced. "Everything you have is because of me," he snapped. I said, "No, you made me feel like nothing." I held his stare. "I built this anyway." My mom tried, "We're family." I stared at the spot where the vial had hit the floor. Family doesn't drug you and steal your life. In the days that followed, lawyers served notices, hospitals filed reports, and investigators asked hard questions. Ruth got commended, and I made sure she got paid. They spent years waiting for me to disappear. This time, I chose what survived and who didn't.
My dad stood at the microphone in front of 240 guests at my brother's wedding. He smiled big and said, "God gave us 2 children. He was being generous with one of them." The whole room burst out laughing. My brother laughed. His wife laughed. Everyone clapped like it was the best joke ever. I sat alone at table 11 near the kitchen. My body went cold. I set down my fork. I picked up my clutch. I walked straight out without looking back. That was 6 years ago. My parents had always ranked us. My brother was the golden child. I got the loans and afterthought questions. "How's school?" my dad would ask, already turning away. But the toast was the end. My mom chased me to the parking garage. "It was just a toast," she said. He was being funny. I turned around. Dad told 200 people I was God's mistake. She crossed her arms. "Your brother is getting married. This isn't about you. It's never been about you at his events." Those words landed harder than the joke. I got in my car and drove home. I blocked every number, changed mine, cut them out completely. I moved to a new city, got promotions, painted one wall dark green because I finally could. Then 11 weeks ago, my phone buzzed. Unknown number from back home. 3 words. "He needs you." It was my cousin. My brother had fallen apart hard. His wife left over a year ago. The drinking took over. He lost his big law job. My parents kept covering, telling people he was on sabbatical, but he was barely eating, barely leaving his apartment. Bottles everywhere. I called my mom. She tried the careful version. I pushed. Finally, she admitted it. Right after the wedding, my brother tried calling me. They had his phone for a few days and blocked my number from his contacts. Then they told him I needed space and had chosen to disappear. For 6 years, he thought I'd abandoned abandoned him. They'd built 6 years of silence on one quick lie. I booked a flight. I landed and drove straight to my parents' house first. My mom opened the door looking smaller than I remembered. I didn't hug her. I walked in and sat on the couch in my coat. I made them tell me the full story. Then I looked at my dad. At the wedding, you told everyone I was the mistake. You blocked me from his phone and let him think I didn't care while he was drowning. My mom cried into her sleeve. My dad stared at the floor. I stood up. Here's what's happening. I'm seeing my brother. If he wants treatment, you're paying for the whole program. You stay out of the decisions. You write the check and step back. They didn't argue. I drove to his apartment building and buzzed the unit. Nothing at first. Then his voice came through the speaker, rough and broken. What? It's me, I said. 8 seconds of silence. That's not possible. It is. Buds may in. The door clicked. I took the elevator up. The hallway smelled like old takeout. I knocked on his door. A long pause. Footsteps dragged. The door opened 2 inches. Chain still on. One bloodshot eye looked out. He was thin, unshaved, hollow. He slid the chain off. The door opened wider. Bottles covered the coffee table. Takeout bags piled up. He wore a sweatshirt inside out and jeans that hadn't been washed in days. I sat down right on the floor. He stared like I might vanish, then slid down the wall across from me. I thought you hated me, he said quietly. I looked at him. I thought you didn't care that night. We sat there letting that truth fill the room. He rubbed his face. They told me you needed space, that you chose to leave. They blocked my number on your phone, I told him. You tried to call. They made sure I never got it. His face changed. Something young and broken showed for the first time. I didn't rush. I found a program. 90 days. Good one. Mom and dad are paying, but you have to choose it for you, not for them. He was quiet a long time. Then he nodded once. I don't know how to do this. You don't have to know how, I said. You just have to go. 3 days later, I drove him to the airport. He hugged me at security, too thin, smelling like hotel, soap, and old pain. I can't believe you came, he whispered. I almost didn't, I said. But I'm here. He went through the line, turned once and raised his hand. I raised mine back until he disappeared. That was 11 weeks ago. He's still in treatment. He calls me every Thursday. The conversations are real now. Careful but honest. My parents sent short emails asking for updates. I give the minimum. I haven't decided about more yet. I flew back to my green wall, my friends, my life I built alone. I proved I could walk into the thing that broke me and still hold my shape. I was never the throwaway daughter. I just had to leave their table to learn it.